So today is kind of the hodgepodge day where we're going to go over 3 topics, and the first of the 3 topics is how to graph inequality absolute value equations. So hopefully you still remember from the last chapter where we graphed these absolute value equations, and our goal was to find the vertex. And we found the vertex by making the absolute value 0. So I'm going to come over here and make my chart. I'm going to have x on this side and y on this side. And if I think, what would make this side 0? Well, if I plugged in 4, this would become 0. Then I pick one value above, which would be 3, and one value below, which would be 5. To find the y value, I just take the x's and plug them into that spot. Well, 3 minus 4 is -1. The absolute value of -1 is +1. Minus 5 is -4. 4 minus 4 is 0. The absolute value is 0 is 0. Minus 5 is -5. And then same thing, 5 minus 4 is 1. Absolute value of 1 is 1. 1 minus 5 is -4. Okay. Now I'm going to go down and graph those points. I'm going to graph them in yellow so they show up a little bit better. But if I go to 3, -4, whoops, steal the eraser, get rid of that. A point here and a point there. There we go. Now, because it has this symbol, I'm going to use solid lines. Let's shade in a different color. Let's do green. And because it's facing away from the y, I'm going to shade below. So my absolute value, or my absolute value inequality would look like that. Let's look at one more example. Okay, now we're going to look at this second example. And if you notice what's weird about this second example right off the bat, is there's a number over here on this side, and we don't really want that number on this side, so let's move it over. Add 7, add 7. So my new absolute value equation will be y is greater than negative absolute value of x plus 2 plus 7. Okay, so we got that equation. Unfortunately, I didn't have a lot of room to write. But now we're going to play the same game we did before. So let's find what makes this inside 0. Well, what would make this inside 0 would be -2. I pick one value below, which would be -3. One value above, which would be -1. And then we start to plug and chug. So -3 plus 2 is -1. The absolute value of -1 is +1. But it has this negative sign outside, so it becomes a -1 again. Plus 7 would be 6. -2 plus 2, 0. Absolute value of 0, 0. Minus 0, 0. Plus 7, 7. And since we know the top and the bottom have to be the same, we could plug it in, or we could just go, well, it's got to be the same. Time to graph this. Oh, -2, 7 is just a little bit above our graph. -1, 6 is right on that bar. -3, 6 is right on that bar. Because this sign is not equal to, it's going to be a dotted. So I'm going to try to make it dots, which is not as easy on this thing. If I make some dots, then we're going to shade. Let's pick blue this time. This time I'm going to shade above because it's greater than. So above this line would be up here. And that's what it would look like. For a lot of these absolute values, if they just add a line, you would graph the line with it and shade the region that they fit in between. So pretty much every single time it's the same kind of idea. It's just absolute value equations. You graph them like we did before with these XY tables, and then Now they just have a shading element.